All right. Hey, thanks for joining me. All right. We're here to talk a little bit about the current impasse. We're looking at some of the side-by-side language and what's going on. So let me go ahead and pull this document up. So I'm going to go through this quickly with you to give you an idea of where we are when it comes to this the side-by-side comparison. So I'm going to take myself off the screen. There I go. Bye. All right, here we are. And we're looking at the grade span adjustment language. And just so we're all on the same page with this, grade span adjustment is this idea that the state has required school districts who are have K through 3 age students to reduce their class sizes to 24 to 1 by a certain date. And you had to make progress towards that from year to year. If you did that, you automatically got some extra dough for all those K-3 kids. Well, those districts who couldn't make that progress because of whatever reason, the state added another element that says, well, if you can negotiate something locally, an alternative class size goal, then that'll meet the state's requirements and the state will relinquish those funds, those GSA funds to the district. Well, in our district, that adds up to be about $5.7 million. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is because grade span adjustment is not a required element of negotiation. In other words, we don't have to negotiate it with the district. We can simply say to the district, we know you can't eat your 24 to 1, but we're going to go ahead and let you handle that on your own, and we're not going to worry about entering into any kind of alternative agreement. And then the district couldn't force us to the table. They could not require us. They could not demand to bargain. Mandatory elements are items that you can demand to bargain. And so take a look at the district's position. What I want you to notice here is that within the context of this language, and nowhere does it say that the district is interested in negotiating any kind of class size language. They simply want to put some basic language into the contract that says that the association has given up their right to continue to negotiate grade span while in exchange for a little bit of on-schedule money and a little bit of cash towards our benefits. So this is our side-by-side, but don't take my word for it. If you go to the district side-by-side, which looks like this, their proposal is some on-contract dollars, a couple of years with 1% for each year, but nowhere does it say anything about the size of our classes. Meanwhile, SMEA believes that the GSA, Grade Span Adjustment MOU, and then a Memorandum of Understanding should really focus on class size and not so much on trying to sell it for other things. So it comes down to actual salary negotiations. The district is offering us 1% off schedule for each year of the contract. So if it's a 1 year, it's 1% off. If it's 2 years, it's 2% off. They are not offering any on-schedule money unless we give up GSA. SMEA is asking for 3% for this year and 3% for the next. We believe the district has more than the ability to pay that 3 on for each of those 2 years. Under health and welfare, again, no changes. They're offering us nothing unless we sell them the GSA into contract language. Then they'll kick in $640 towards our benefits. What we've been asking for is the district to add an additional $1,000 to their contribution. That does not cover the recent increase to benefits, but it does make some progress towards alleviating some of that additional financial impact to our members. The parental bonding, the district says, and we'd like to keep things just the way they are at the minimum required by state law. Whenever an employee has a new addition to their family, whether by birth or adoption, they are allowed up to 12 weeks of parental bonding time. If both teachers worked in 2 different districts, both would get 12 weeks. So they could both be off for a full 12 weeks simultaneously to bond with that a new addition to their family. The law states that if both those folks work for the same school district, that they split those 12 weeks. So what we're saying the district is, yeah, we get that's the minimum. We just don't think it's fair. It shouldn't matter that those 2 teachers happen to both work for the Santa Maria Bonita School District. They should both have access to an equal amount of bonding time as they would if only one of them worked for the district. And the prep period for our primary teacher, our elementary teachers, the district likes the language the way it is now. We know that there was an increase to prep time for elementary a little bit, right? Early out days, a few times, once a month for several of the months of the school year. You had that time from when the students left to when your contract ended. That was your time to prep. No meetings. You can't be called away for anything. You can't be asked to do anything else. That's your time. What we're asking is for an additional 100 minutes or 20 minutes a day of additional prep time for those elementary folks to be able to prepare for all of the things that the district and the state is now asking public educators to do. And so we think that's more than reasonable. The district says now we're fine with the way things are now. Access to new teacher Article 3. Let's take a look. This didn't pop up very well here, so what I want to do is take a look at the districts side by side on that. And it's right here. And this is SMEA column, district column. So in the SMEA column, they write here consensus regarding new language. And over on the district side, they have all this language. Well, just so we're all clear, this is a consensus amongst both parties. We both agree to this. Some of this is new. There's a new law, AB 119, that requires the district to allow the association access to new employees doing any new employee orientation. So the law is making us do this, right? The law also requires that the district provide information about all the current employees and any new employees. So that's where a lot of this comes into play, where it talks about the site, classification, hire date, name in full, that kind of stuff. That's all required by law. This is not a negotiated item. And within 30 days, the hire date, that is all required by law. The part that was negotiated was this 45 minutes within the new employee orientation. And by the way, that 45 minutes, we now have to actually enroll all those new teachers into SMEA, CTA, NEA. It used to be done at the district when a new employee would get their paperwork. Most of that happened to most of us when we got hired. It was just part of our new employee packet. Now SMEA has to go to each individual new hire and engage them and actually have them sign up with us. So that 45 minutes is really going to help us doing that with that new batch of teachers at the beginning of the year. Next thing I want to show you is this. And I'm not usually a PowerPoint presentation person, but I thought this was pertinent. District has been touting that they are deficit spending and they have no availability to provide additional increases to either benefits or to salary. So I wanted you to look at this kind of historical record of the state budget. This is where the district's money comes from. So we should look at, the source, right? Go back to the beginning, 0102 here. This was a time during these surplus years, right? Above the line is a surplus, below the line is a deficit, on the line is a balanced budget. The state had a surplus, and so because of that surplus, there was a nice pay increase during this period for SMEA members. But over the next several years, as the economy turned and there was this huge multi-year deficit, we weren't going really to the district for pay increases. We were looking at other items in the contract like working conditions. We get here to around the 06-07 year, things are doing better again. There was a bit of an increase here for us. And then right about here, 07-08, we all know what happened here, right? This was the big economic downturn, right? And we knew it, the district knew it, the state was in a significant deficit when they were spending. This is also a time when the state had to figure out, what are we going to do now? So during these lean years, there were not really pay increases for SMEA members. Again, we negotiated things like working conditions, but pay really was not a top priority because we knew the district was tight, the state was tight, and so we did our part to make sure that the district continued to stay solvent. And then we get here to 12-13, 13-14. This is right around the time when the state kind of revamped it's the way it budgeted. This is where local control funding formula comes into play, right? So got rid of all the categorical spending. And this was a time when there really was, for San Maria Bonita School District, a time when things were doing really well. San Maria Bonita is very much a positive recipient of the local control funding formula. That formula very much works in our favor when it comes to funding. We have high needs students. We have a lot of second language learners. We have a lot of kids who are free and reduced lunch. We have a lot of kids who are classified as homeless and so on. And so the local control funding formula works really well for the San Maria Bonita School District. So because of that, there were 3 consecutive years of pay increases. So when Mr. Ontiveros says in his writings, over the last 4 years, we've had this 4.25% increase, what he's neglecting to share with you is that over the course of the previous 10 years, from 07 to 2017, that 14.25% was pretty much the only increase we had during that time. So it amounts to less than 1.5% per year of increase, which is, I'm not even sure if that keeps up with COLA. Probably not. So that's what was going on here. And you can notice the several years of surplus. State's doing really well. They're bringing in more money than they thought. A little bit of downturn in this year, but this was more about the state going back and paying over all these years the money that they deferred to school districts. We'll pay you tomorrow for that hamburger today. So they were going back and backfilling those deferments. So now all the deferments have been backfilled. The state no longer owes us any back pay. So we're square with the state right now. And the projection for next year is even more surplus. So just kind of a little snapshot of where we are statewide when it comes to spending. And I also want to show you another slide. Let's see, number 22. I like this one a lot because number 22 gives you a picture of where we are as public entities. So we're ranked in the low 40s when it comes to per pupil spending in the state of California. There's 42, 43 states that are outpacing us when it comes to per pupil spending. But areas that we are doing better than other districts is things like this. All right? We have a pupil teacher ratio that we are 45th in pupil teacher ratio. So there are 44 other states whose pupil to teacher ratio is lower than ours, only 5 that is a higher. And the staff ratio is also, we're 48th. So there's only 2 other states that are doing worse than us in that. On top of that, Californian schools have the largest percentage of English learning students, almost 23%, and the percentage of low and income students is 58.6 in California, which is pretty high, and we know that in our district, that number is even higher. And so just a little perspective for you about where we are. Last thing I want to show you is this. Now, this is the district's example of where we are. What they're saying to us is if they give us 1% on schedule or 1% off schedule, it's going to cost them $933,000. So some quick math tells me that even if I take our 870 members, this is the number the district uses, and we times that, let's say each person makes $100,000. We know that's not true, but let's just put the number up there high. We take that number and we multiply it by the 1%, and we get this number. So this number isn't even close to that number, and this is assuming a huge average per employee salary, which we know is not accurate. So the true number is lower than this. It's significantly lower than that. So I'm not really clear on where this came from. All right. So that's about it. I hope that that helps you understand a little bit better about where you are and where we're going, and that you all, if you have any questions, concerns, you can get a hold of me, get a hold of Jonathan, BA, and have a great week. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you.